A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to ANB Exam Forum. In today's session, we are going to see one of the important topic in chemistry, that is acid and bases. Okay, so without wasting time, let's begin the session. So we have seen that these are the important topics in this particular chapter. Like you should know the properties of acids, bases and salt. And you should know the common names of the acid, bases and salt which are commonly we use in our daily life. Then a very important one is the indicator. We have already made a separate session on this, pH indicator and litmus test. Okay, and again a very important indicator or very important mathematical concept is pH, that is potence of hydrogen, that is power of hydrogen. Okay, so in today's session, we are only covering acid and bases. In the remaining, we are going to have another session for salt and all these indicators. Okay. So the first question is on your screen, and the question says, which one of the following is a natural source of lactic acid? Okay, it is a very important question, or similar questions can come in your exam. Okay. And you should remember that basically the natural source of lactic acid is the sour milk. Okay, so sour milk has one acid, it is the lactic acid. Okay, and we have similarly seen other common name of the acid, and this slide is very important. You should take a screenshot of this. We have already covered in our theory classes that the name of these substances. Okay, and for example, commonly asked question is the ant bite or bee sting. Okay, the chemical name is formic acid or methanoic acid. Okay, so all such pointers we have covered in our theory classes. I am not going to repeat in today's class. Okay, so as you can see, the curd or the sour milk has lactic acid in it. Okay, so you should remember the common aims of the acid for your upcoming exam. Okay, let's see the next question. Goldsmith uses aqua regia, which is prepared by mixing what? This is very important. Okay, again this question is very important. Why I am writing it is very important? Because the name aqua regia is basically a mixture of two acids, and it is also known as the royal water. Okay, we will see in the upcoming slide. Okay, so remember student, the aqua regia is basically the mixture of two acids, namely nitric acid and the hydrochloric acid. Okay, and sometime in exam he can ask you the ratio. Okay, in which ratio they are mixed. Okay, so the ratio, if you talk about, if you are taking 1 part of nitric acid, 3 part of HCl will be used to make aqua regia. Okay, and all such pointer we have seen in our theory classes, where we discussed that aqua regia is basically the mixture of two strong acid, hydrochloric acid and the nitric acid, in ratio 3:1. Don't confuse, it is 3 part of HCl and 1 part of nitric acid. Okay, and it is also known as royal's water. Why? Because it can dissolve the precious metal like gold and platinum. Okay, and it is commonly used by the jewelers. Okay, I repeat, aqua regia, it is mixture of two strong acid, HCl and HNO3, that is nitric acid, in ratio 3:1, and it is also known as royal water and used by jewelers to melt or dissolve the noble metals like platinum and gold. Okay, let's see the next question. So this is basically assertion and reason. So the assertion says, to dilute sulfuric acid, acid is added to water, not the water to acid. Yes, it is very true. Okay, it is true that we should never add water to acid. Instead we should add acid to the water. Okay, why? Because this is a strong acid and if you do that, because specific heat of water is very high, so that's why you are not adding water to acid, because specific heat of water is very high. This is also true, reason is true. Okay, so both A are B and true, and R is the correct explanation of A is the right, so option A is the right answer. Okay, so always acid is added to water, not water to acid, because specific heat of water is very high. Okay, let's see the next question. Which of the following substance is not secreted in the stomach as ingredient of gastric acid? Okay, so you can see that acids are important part of our life. Even in our body we have different type of acid, and these are the four options. He's saying that which is the not ingredient of gastric acid. Okay, so if you see all these options, okay, sulfuric acid is a very strong acid, and it is not present in our gastric juice. Okay, so sulfuric acid, those who have given, they are right. So sulfuric acid is not secreted in the stomach. The next question, again I am marking it, is very important. Which acid is present in acid rain? Okay, so you know acid rain is basically the rain having acid. So what are those acids? Student, you just remember there are two acids formed, okay, because of the pollution, because pollution contain nitrous oxide and sulfur dioxide, because of which two acids are generated. One is nitric acid and the other is sulfuric acid. Okay, so nitric acid is basically present in the acid rain. Okay, and we have seen in theory classes that acid rain is basically the rain which contains strong acid from the gases sulfur dioxide and nitrous oxide. Okay, so as you know, sulfur dioxide, the source is coal burning thermal power plant and factories. So when it mix with the rain, or it mix with the like whatever the water on the atmosphere, it becomes sulfuric acid. Okay, and the nitrogen oxide, that is NOx, when it mix with the water, it become nitric acid. Okay, so these two acid is basically the products of the gases when they mix with the water. Okay, and form the strong acid. Since they are acid, they can harm our atmosphere. Okay, the next question, which one of the following is present in maximum amount in acid rain? Okay, so we have just seen that there are two acids which are in the acid rain. The first one is HNO3 and second one is H2SO4. Okay, and the maximum amount of acid rain is sulfuric acid, because sulfur dioxide is basically more in the atmosphere. So H2SO4 is the right answer. Okay, let's see the next question. Which acid is used in explosive as TNT? Okay, so TNT is basically one of the explosive, and these are the options. Okay, so remember student, it is nitric acid. Okay, so nitric acid, it is also known as aqua fortis. Okay, it is known as aqua fortis. Okay, which is commonly used in the explosive such as TNT. Okay, so option C is the right answer. Okay, so aqua fortis, as I told you, it is concentrated nitric acid HNO3, and it is used as explosive in TNTs. Okay, let's see the next question. Which one of the following statement is not true or false? Okay, so let's see one by one. An acid that completely ionized with iron produce large amount of hydrogen ion, like for example HCl, H2SO4, HNO3. Yes, it is true. Okay, it is true. We know that when acid completely ionize, it generate lot of hydrogen ion. It is basically the strong acid. Okay, it is basically a strong acid. It should be strong acid. Okay, so all these are strong acid. whereas weak acid partially ionized in the water produce small amount of hydrogen ion. This is also true, and these are the example. These are right, so both are correct. Okay, there should be no confusion. It is basically the definition of strong acid and weak acid, so both are correct. And in the theory we have seen that we can classify the acid based on the source, like natural acid or the mineral acid, and based on the degree of ionization or the strength, there are two type of acid: strong acid and weak acid. And all these pointers we have seen in our theory classes. Okay, so you can just watch those theory classes, right? Let's see the next question. Again, this question belongs to the common name of the acid. Muriatic acid is scientifically known as what? This is a common name which generally people use in the old days. Muriatic acid, it is scientifically known as what? Okay, student, remember, it is option B, hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid is known as muriatic acid. Okay, and the other name, if you want to know, you can just have a look on this particular slide, that oil of vitriol is known as sulfuric acid. This is important. Oil of vitriol, it is sulfuric acid, whereas muriatic acid, gastric acid, it is HCl. Soda water is carbonic acid. Aqua fortis is nitric acid, and vitamin C is ascorbic acid. Okay, so these are the common name of the acids which are generally asked in the exams. Next one is antacids are what? Okay, so don't confuse with this question. Word, it is having word acid, so it doesn't mean it is acid, so it is wrong. Anta means which neutralizes acid. What neutralizes acid? It is a base. Okay, so base is going to neutralize the acid. Those are known as antacids. So base are known as antacids. Okay, and the usage of antacid is basically which is basically neutralize the excess acid like HCl in the stomach. So if you take milk of magnesia or some other antacids which are commonly available in the market, they are generally the weak bases. Okay, and they help in acidity, heat burn, and indigestion. Okay, so antacids are basically the weak bases. Let's see the next question. Which one of the following statement is true or false? Okay, but let's read it carefully. An alkali that is completely ionized in water produce large amount of hydroxide ion. Okay, NaOH and KOH. Okay, this is true. An alkali that is partially ionized in water produce small amount of hydrogen. This is also true. Both are correct. Yes, both are correct. Let's see. So option D is correct. Why it's so? Okay, so here this is a tricky one again. It is saying KOH. You should remember KOH is a strong alkali, not the weak alkali. Okay, if it is strong, it does not partially ionize, it will make completely ionization. So because of this, option B become false. So option D, option A is the correct. Okay, only A is the correct. Okay, option D is the correct answer, right? Because of the KOH we got confused, so you need to read the full statement very carefully. Okay, so option D is the right answer. Okay, so these are the two type of bases based on the strength. Let's see the next question. Which one of the following is not property of alkali? Let's see one by one. They make red litmus blue. It is true. They make red litmus blue. That is a property of alkali. They produce hydrogen ion in water. No. They produce hydroxide ion, that is OH negative ion. So this is not property of alkali. Okay, so option B is the right answer. Let's see the next question. Which one of the following is an alkali? Okay, so a very simple one and a very popular alkali, that is caustic soda NaOH. So all these have OH. It doesn't mean all these are alkali. This is the alkali. Okay, NaOH. NaOH is the alkali. So option C is the right answer. Okay, so these are the common name of the pure bases. Like just now we have seen sodium hydroxide, which is basically the caustic soda. You should remember this name, caustic soda, sodium hydroxide. Where if you talk about caustic potash, it is potassium hydroxide, and slake lime is calcium hydroxide, aqueous ammonia is ammonium hydroxide, milk of magnesia is magnesia hydroxide. This is again an important one. Milk of magnesia that we have seen is generally used as antacid. It is magnesium hydroxide. Okay, MgOH2. Okay, let's see the next question. Which one of the following statement is correct? Okay, so the statement say phenolphthalein turn pink in soapy solution. No. Okay, it is right. Non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. Yes, it is true. Lemon contains citric acid. It is again true. The alkaline nature of sodium hydroxide, that is NaOH, is due to presence of sodium ion. No, it is not presence of sodium ion. It is of presence of hydroxide ion. Okay, OH negative. The alkaline nature is because of this OH part, not the sodium part. Okay, so option D is the incorrect one. So option D is the right answer.